right, everybody, we're in Ephesians 2, Paul's letter to followers of Messiah in Ephesus. And one of the big things in churchianity is how the Torah was nailed to the cross with Jesus, and that's obviously incorrect because Jesus himself said the law isn't going anywhere if you let me keep my commands, and there's just a million other things that prove that that's just not the case. And churchianity likes to use Paul to twist Paul's sayings. Like Peter says, Paul's words are hard to understand, and the lawless will use Paul to try to get you to be lawless. But what was nailed to the cross, you got to remember, and I'm keeping this all pretty simplistic, there was the oral traditions, the oral law of the Pharisees. And, supposedly from what I've read, when Moses was on, the Mount Sinai for 40 days with the Lord, he wasn't writing stuff down. They were talking, and supposedly Moses got verbal instruction that he passed down to the elders of the tribe, and that was passed down verbally for generations and generations. Now that to me just sounds like a scam to make this what you say seem lawful by way of the Lord, which is taking the Lord's name in vain. That's the real meaning of taking the Lord's name in vain. So the Pharisees were taking the Lord's name in vain, giving, credence to their, or whatever they wanted to say, whatever law they wanted to make up, the words that came out of their mouth were, now attributed to having backing by the Lord, which obviously did not, because he says, do not add or take away to this word. So what was nailed to the cross was the dogma of men, the Pharisaic, law, all the oral traditions, which is why, he argued with the Pharisees all the time about stuff like hand washing and whatnot. Oh, geez, dog. Sorry, the dog's going nuts. But, we're in Ephesians 2, 15. And Paul, is writing, he's talking about Yeshua. We're saved in Yeshua. For he is our peace, who has made both one, having broken down the partition of the barrier, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, the Torah of the commands in dogma, oral traditions, man's laws, the Torah of man's laws. That's what Yeshua got rid of. And it's once you piece all this together, it makes sense now, and you see him constantly arguing with the Pharisees. He was, they were his arch nemesis. Why? Because they had their oral traditions, and he is like, I am the Lord, this is not my law, stop making a stumbling block for my people. It all makes sense when you see. The problem is the church doesn't teach you this stuff, and it's all pretty simple, actually, in the concept. It gets complicated, it can, but the concept is very simple when you see stuff like this and you put it all together. The Lord didn't come to abolish his own law and just let us do whatever we want. Just love your neighbor and love the God. No, you still have to follow the rules. They're just rules. No, they're not going to make you righteous or get you into heaven by following the rules. It's just what's expected of you. That's what people don't get. It's not some big, don't think, the Lord, I'm made, that's why Paul says you're not made righteous. That's what they twist in Paul. When Paul says you're not made right by the Torah is not righteousness. It's can be a curse. Because it's not what, it's just a set of laws. You're not being made right by them. You're not getting into heaven by them. You're only getting in because, Elohim has lots and lots and lots of grace and compassion. And he's like, you guys are morons down there, but I still love you. But we still have rules to follow. That's it. You don't have to make it more complicated. I just see these guys who, if they could see themselves, they just, tear up into this. I know here's the Hebrew and the vowels here and what it probably meant. And, I got this one guy who says that because of the vowel placement or whatever, that marriage isn't between just a man and a woman. It's man and man. And it's like, okay, well, what's the saying goes? Use the Bible to prove the Bible. And why in other places in the Bible does it say homosexuality is a sin and it's an abomination? And see, so when the smarty pants guys try to do that, you notice how they always have this one little specific thing they cling on to, because once you compare that to the rest of the Bible, you can see that, your interpretation of your vowels is wrong. And I'm not trying to sound like a know-it-all, but I mean, it's just common sense. When you read it for yourself and break it down in the simplistic form, he's our Father, we're kids. Just like you give your kids rules and you expect them to follow them, but they can't because they're kids and they're not perfect, and you forgive them. You say, try again. And eventually when they grow up, they learn to be hopefully good people who understand that you have to do things the right way. That's all this is. That's it. It's a test, kind of. You can look at it. It's just a douchebag test. Don't be a douchebag. That's all this is a douche. That's all life is it's God's douchebag test. Because do you want to be around douchebags in heaven? Because I don't, and it sounds like he doesn't either. So that's all this is. And the dog agrees. Hey, poops. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great night, and I hope Elohim blesses all of you. And as always, if you want to argue or call me names in the comments, feel free. Peace out.